Okay, for the pattern, we are going to be using some loops and thread heathered tweed yarn. That's what I've got here. I am very cheap, or I lost the ball band because I'm very cheap. And I made my swatch and then undid it, so that's why we've got, or even more than a swatch, but I was trying out the stitch pattern and I lost the ball band, unfortunately, but this is what it looks like when you buy it new. But I love this yarn. It's super soft. It has a ton of yardage. This has 418 yards and it's considered a lightweight, but I don't know, maybe the fuzzies on it are throwing me off. I would maybe consider this a DK, or you could get away with a DK if you're going to substitute. So always check gauge, especially if it's for a project that needs to fit a certain size. But I'm feeling maybe a little bit DK-ish on this. Then for the actual needles, I'm using these Addi Turbos. I love Addi Turbos, but this is a 5mm, let's see if I can get that in focus, a 5mm 16-inch, so US 8. These are just fabulous. The cords never kink. It slides nice and easy. They're so smooth. I just love Addi Turbos. I'm gonna link everything in the description just in case you've never tried them, because I highly recommend them. And then of course, because we're working in the round, you're gonna want a stitch marker. My favorite are these little guys. I don't know why, probably just because they're cute. So I'll link those guys as well. But I have a whole variety, so I usually try to get one that's kind of close to the size of my needle, so that way it doesn't flop everywhere. It kind of just glides with it. So get one kind of near the size of your needle, and it makes it just a little bit easier when you're working. And then you're also going to need some scissors to cut your yarn and a yarn needle to weave that in. Okay, so to begin, we're going to start with a long tail cast on of 64 stitches. And you can use any cast on you like. We're going to be doing some ribbing, so if you like a ribbing type cast on, go ahead and use that. I'll link to different cast ons I have below, but in the meantime, a long tail works perfectly fine for most things, so we're going to stick with that. So go ahead and cast on 64 stitches, and then we'll come back to start. Okay, I've got my 64 cast on stitches, and now I'm going to join it to work in the round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first make sure all of my stitches are facing the same way. So I usually like to lay it down and then just turn all of the cast on stitches facing the same way so I know I don't have anything twisted. And then we'll add our stitch marker so that we can begin round 1. So for round 1 and rounds 2 through 10, we're going to be doing a ribbed edged. So this is going to be a basic 2 stitch ribbing. So what that means is we're going to knit 2, purl 2. So when we first join, we're going to try to make this stitch as tight as possible to bring the 2 edges together, because if I just slide it off here, we're going to have a big old gap. So I want to bring it close together, pull my tail so the stitch is as close as possible to my ending stitch, and then slide that off. So that's our knit 1, then we're going to knit 2, and then we're going to purl 2. And again, if you're new to knitting, I have lots of beginner knitting tutorials that I will link, but this is more of here's the instructions and go for it. This isn't so much teaching, so definitely check those out if you're not sure how to knit and purl yet. But we're going to knit 2, purl 2 again. Knit 2, purl 2. If I can get in there. And we're going to continue that all the way around, and we'll come back after the first round just so we can make sure everyone understands what we're doing. Okay, here I am on the last 4 stitches, so 2 knits and 2 purls. And don't worry, you see how this is kind of like spreading apart from the first stitch? As long as you kept it tight in the beginning, it will be fine. It will work itself out when you weave in everything. You'll see there's kind of a big gap, but that's normal. It will work itself out as long as you kept that first stitch tight. So we're going to slip our stitch markers, And then we're going to start round 2. So again, with this one, make the first one as tight as you can, get as close as possible before you slip it off. So I'm stuck in the little hairs of this yarn. I really like this yarn, even though it's got the little hairs. It's very cute and soft. So I'm going to pull that as tight as I can and slip that off. So we're going to repeat what we did, 2 knits, 2 purls. So we're knitting the knits and purling the purls. Keep track if you're not used to counting rounds or stitches, so that way you know where you're at and what round you're on, because we're going to do 10 of these. So I'm going to leave you alone to work on all 10 of these. So just mark off as you go so you don't lose your place if you're not used to it. And we'll meet up at the end of round 10 to start the next portion of the beanie. Okay, here I am on my last stitch of round 10, my last purl. I'm going to slip my slip marker, I keep calling it a slip marker, stitch marker, and then we're going to move on to rounds 11 and 12, which are the same. They are just going to be simple knit all the way around. So we're going to do 2 rounds of knitting before we begin our lace repeat. So go ahead and just knit those around and we'll come back at the end of round 12. Okay, here I am at the end of round 12, doing my last knit stitch. I'm ready for round 13. This is where the lace begins, the lace repeat, and the entire instruction is a repeat. So every stitch I'm going to do, we'll keep doing all the way around. So to begin the repeat, we're going to knit 1, then we're going to yarn over, then we're going to do a decrease. We're going to do a right leaning decrease, a knit 2 together. So we're going to skip the first stitch, go to the second one, go in both of them as if to knit, insert your needle, and then just knit those off. And you'll see it's a right leaning, it leans over to the right. Then we are going to knit 3, 2 and 3. Then we're going to do a left leaning decrease, an SSK, so a slip, slip, knit. So we're going to slip the first stitch as if to knit. So we're just going to go in from the left and pull it off to the other needle and not pull it completely off. Then we're going to do the same thing with the second one, pull that off. Then we're going to insert our left needle back into our stitches. And then from here, you're just going to knit through the back loop, so you can leave your right needle in there and just yarn over and pull through those 2 stitches and pull off, and that gives you a left leaning decrease. Then we're going to yarn over and start the process over again. Okay, so we're going to knit 1, then we're going to yarn over and knit 2 together. So it's knit those 2 together. Sometimes these are not very pointy tips, so sometimes you need to pull on your fabric to get through those stitches if you don't have very pointy knitting needle tips. That's your tip. Then we're going to knit 3. We're going to do our next decrease, the slip, slip, knit. So slip 1, slip 2, enter from the left, yarn over and knit those off, and then yarn over and repeat. So we're going to keep doing that all the way around, and then we'll come back for the next round of our instructions. Okay, I'm coming back at the end of round 13 just to show you the very end stitches, because this does end with a yarn over. So when you are doing that very last stitch, do not forget that yarn over or you'll be missing a stitch for round 14. So the very last where we're using yarn is going to be our slip, slip, knit. So you should have 2 loops left to work into. And then we need to yarn over before we start round 14. So you're just going to slide your stitch marker, leave that yarn over there, and begin round 14. So round 14 is similar to the last round, it's just we're going to move stitches around a little bit. So we're going to first start off with 2 knits. when we start off, so make sure that you do not lose your yarn overs because you need to work into those. So you're working into that yarn over. Then we're going to do our yarn over and our knit 2 together. And then instead of 3 knits in between our decreases, we're only doing 1. So we're going to knit 1, then we're going to slip, slip, knit. If I can get in there. I like the halo on this, but it does get a little bit caught sometimes with your needles. Then we're going to yarn over, and our last stitch will be a knit 1, so it's going to be in that yarn over again. So we're knitting into yarn over. So that's the end of the repeat. So again, our repeat is knit 2, knit 1, knit 2, and you should notice where you're knitting into the yarn overs of the round below, so that if you miss seeing a yarn over, you might have forgotten one on the last round. So that second knit is going to go into your yarn over. So it's knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, knit 1, then we're going to slip, slip, knit, then we're going to yarn over, and then the second yarn over we're working into is the very last knit of the repeat. So we're going to keep on doing that same set of stitches all the way around, and then we'll come back for round 15. Okay, here I am at my last 3 stitches, which is a slip, slip, knit. Well, kind of 4, because I'm going to yarn over and then I'm going to knit 1. So we are ready for round 15. And this is the last actual lace of the stitch repeat, and then we're going to have 3 rounds of easy. So it's a pay attention and then not pay attention kind of pattern. So for round 15, we're going to start off with knit 3. So you notice we've increased each time. So this time our yarn over is on that second knit stitch. And then we're going to yarn over, and now we're going to do a new stitch. We're going to do a CDD, which is a center double decrease. So no more knit 2 together or slip, slip knits. This one's going to reduce our stitch count by 2. So it's going to create kind of a middle decrease. So the first thing we're going to do is slip 2. So we're going to slip 2 over. Then we're going to knit 1. And then we're going to pass both of these over that knit 1. So 1 and 2. So we just got rid of 2 stitches, and then we have just that 1 stitch, and you can kind of see how it looks like a center decrease. It just looks like a little triangle almost. Then, because we did that yarn over on one side, we're going to do another yarn over on the other side to bring our stitch count back up. So those 2 create 2 extra stitches where we lost those 2. And then we're going to knit 2. That is the repeat for this section. Again, we're going to knit 3, 2 and 3. Then we're going to do our center decrease. So we're going to slip 2. We're going to knit the next one. Then we're going to slip 1 and slip 2. To make up for those 2, we have our 1 yarn over. We're going to do another yarn over and then knit 2 to finish off our repeat. So we're going to keep on doing that all the way around, and then we're going to have some nice easy rounds after that. So I will see you in just a second. Okay, here I am at my last center double decrease. I have 2 more stitches left, and now I am done with round 15. So you can see this kind of V that is formed with the lace. So for rounds 16 through 18, we are just knitting. That's it. We're just going to knit in the round for those 3 rounds. Make sure you're keeping track if you're not great at counting your rounds, so that way you know when it's time to start our lace back up. So we're going to knit 16 through 18. So we're going to keep repeating 13 through 18, and it's really going to depend on how slouchy you want the beanie. So if you want it fitted, we're going to knit for about 10 stitches. And if you want it slouchy, we're going to go for about 12 inches. So just keep on knitting those repeats until you get to where you want. We're going to end with a round 15 repeat because our knits are going to be our decreases. We're going to use 16 through 18 to do really fast decreasing on the crown to get it closed. So keep on knitting, and I'll come back in a little bit of progress so you can see how the lace is working up. Okay, I promised I would come back after I got some distance here. So I'm on the 3rd repeat of my lace, and I just wanted to give you kind of a view of what it looks like a little bit more worked up so that you can see if yours is matching. So as you're working, you'll notice that you have kind of these center pieces that come up, and that's kind of your guide to make sure you're staying on track. So if you get off on your stitches, if you forget a yarn over somewhere, you're going to see that it's going strange ways. So always when you're working these laces, kind of look at what you're doing below. Like for example, I just did the knit 5 and the middle knit 3 stitch is right in this center line here. So it's gonna always be right in that center. And then the last one is being worked in a yarn over. And then when I do my center double decrease, you'll see that there's 3, full stitches of stitch work that I'm working into. So if I'm working into a yarn over, I know I've gone off track somewhere because I probably forgot a yarn over. So keep those in mind as you're working, and just pay attention to where you're working into below, and that will help guide you. If you notice that you're not working 3 dense stitches for the center double decrease, stop, work backwards, start counting where you might have gotten off. So keep on going. We'll come back when it's time to decrease the crown, and I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, I've got my beanie to the length that I wanted, so it can be a little slouchy. So it's about 11 inches long when we get it flat. So now I'm going to do my decreasing. I have just my last stitch here, so I didn't lose my stitch marker. So for my decreasing, for the next 2 rounds, I am going to knit 2 together. So we finish with a round 15 repeat, and that's the last bit of the lace. So we're gonna do just, normal stitches to close it up. So for the next 2 rounds, we're going to decrease, and we're going to do that by doing knit 2 togethers over and over. So try not to make them too tight, otherwise the round after this gets a little difficult to work into. So with this, you are just going to knit 2 together on every 2 stitches that you come to. So sometimes it can be a little bit finicky with the yarn overs and such, but just take your time, give yourself some slack when you're taking it off to give some room for your next round. And we're gonna just do those 2 rounds, and then we'll come back and close up the hole. So go ahead and do your 2 rounds of knit 2 together, and we'll see you in just a minute. Okay, just finished all of my decreasing. So now I'm going to close off the hole. So I'm going to do a tail long enough for sewing and weaving in. And let me find a good one that I want to use. It should be good. Okay, so we are going to start from where we left off. So here was my last stitch. I'm going to go through the new stitches, just pick each one off as I go. And I should have 16 left. You could do one more round of knit two together if you want to, but this closes just fine. I like the hooked needles like this because it's easy to kind of hook it and pull. Okay, and then I'm gonna pull that closed. So you can see the 16 made it like, so it's a little bit ruffly almost at the very top, which I like better than just like a straight flat when it's a slouchy beanie like that. So I will go through it. I'll probably go around the circle one more time and then weave everything in, but go ahead and weave in your ends and then we'll come back real quick at the end. Okay, here is the finished beanie all woven in. So this will be a nice slouchy beanie. You can always cut it off at the 9-inch mark to make it more fitted, whatever you choose. So be sure to tag me if you make one. I'd love to see it. All of my handles are below, but I'm Deja with Knit and Crochet Ever After, and thank you for watching.